Welcome everybody to this video on nested loops and nesting loop ifs inside of loops in Java. So we've already looked at nesting ifs inside of other ifs. What we're going to be looking at today is nesting if statements inside of loops, as well as nesting loops inside of other loops. So what we're going to look at first is nesting ifs inside of loops. So what I'm going to need for this is I'm going to need two variables for what I want to do. I'm going to have int I, which is I'm going to make equal to 0, as well I'm going to make an integer count, which is also going to be equal to 0. Now, the purpose of my loop is going to be to count the number of even numbers between I and the value that I'm given in the condition. This means that I'm going to create a while loop that will run as long as I is less than the number I'm given, in this case 5 that I'm going to use. And this will ensure that I run my loop sufficient times, checking all numbers from I until, in this case, 5. Now, inside of this while loop, I am going to put an if statement. That if statement is going to check if the number is even. In order to do that, I put I mod 2, which will give me the remainder of dividing I by 2. If it is equal to 0, I want to increase my count by 1, so I'm going to put count plus plus. Now, of course, since this is a loop and I want it to eventually be false, I need to make sure that I will eventually be equal to or greater than 5, so I'm going to increase I by 1 each iteration. So if we look at how this works, I's value the first time we go through will be 0. My if statement will run. It will check if I mod 2 is equal to 0. Since 0 divided by 2 will give a remainder of 0, I will go in, count will increase by 1, so count's value is now 1. And then I will increase I's value by 1 afterwards. I will go back, check my condition. I is 1 is less than 5. So it's true. I will continue into my loop. I will check my if statement. 1 divided by 2 gives me a remainder of 1. Therefore, this is false. We skip the whole if statement and we increase I's value again. It's 2. We go back and we continue on and on and on until we get to the end and this no longer is running, because the condition for the while loop is false. So if I run this, I get a result of 3, since 0, 2, and 4 are all less than 5, and therefore I have 3 numbers that were even that were less than 5. Keep in mind, I can also have written else statements inside of here. That is completely fine as well. I could have used a for loop. I could have used a do while loop. All of these things stay the same no matter what you're doing. Okay, now let's look at nesting loops inside of other loops. So what I'm going to start with here is I'm going to say I want to output a sequence of numbers from 1 to each number from 1 to 10. So in other words, I should be outputting 1, followed by 1, 2, followed by 1, 2, 3, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Each of these is going to be on a new line. So what I need to do is I am going to need to cycle from 1 to 10, and then inside of that I need to cycle again. Since both of these things require loops, I'm going to be putting a loop inside of another loop. So my first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a loop that will go from 1 to 10. So I'm going to make sure I initialize at 1. I continue until I is less than or equals to 10, so I want to run it if either of those are true, and I increase I each time. Now inside of this, I'm going to put a second loop. This is going to count from the value of j, which is 1, until the current value of I we have. So the first time through my loop it'll be 1, but in previous times through the loop it'll be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and finally 10. So what I want to do then is I'm going to print out j, and I'm not going to use println. I'm going to use print, and this is because I want these numbers to stay on the same line. However, once I am done this loop, so in other words, once I finish my single sequence of numbers, such as the first one would just be 1, the second one should be 1, 2, I want to put a line between these. So outside of this loop, I'm going to put a system.out.println in order to make a new line between each sequence of numbers. If I run this, you'll notice now that I am going to print out each of these numbers one by one, and they will print out on different lines. So my first time through, I's value is 1, so I only print out 1, since this loop only runs once. The second time through, the value increases by 1. Sorry, I changed everything to k, since I used I already up here. If I change or if I'm going through here, k's value is now going to be 2. So this means this needs to run twice now for 1 and 2. Then I'm going to print a new line. I go to the next one. I have 1, 2, 3 because this k's value is 3. So this loop will now run 3 times. And this will continue all the way until my last one where I have 10. So k's value is 10. This will run from 1 to 10, and all of that will be on a single line. Now, of course, just as I talked about with the if statements inside of loops, I could have used 2 for loops. In this case, I also could have used 2 while loops. I could have used 2 do while loops. I can use a while and a for loop. I can use a for loop and a while loop. All of these are acceptable.